It's more than just your talent, CC. It's clear that, you know, as you go through this life, you extend grace to others, respect. Welcome back to the studio. It's great to see you, mate.
That's so kind. So do you. Thank you, bro.
What's going on?
Clearly, literally,
Not much.
everything.
Just best album of your career to date.
Just actually best album of my career to date. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Stand by it. Live it.
I'm living it.
Oh, you should. It's start to finish. If you're a Camila Cabello fan, yeah, great. You showed up better than you've ever showed up before. But it's the ones who weren't sure, never looked your way, because we all get to make choices in life. We can't love everybody. You're going to hit some new people with this music in a big, big way. It's just really modern and innovative and interesting, but the writing at the core of it, which you've always had, is really still driving and better than ever before.
Yeah, I feel like I really hit my... I mean, obviously, I feel like you always kind of, from the beginning of my career, I feel like this is the album that I always saw for myself.
Yeah.
And it took me a few tries to get there and keep learning and keep learning and keep finessing and keep learning the techniques. And I feel like this was the album where I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that I could do this all along, and I finally proved it to myself.
It sounds like you let go of some stuff. You know,
absolutely.
I think when you come through success and then you're expected to maintain and build on that success, and then you're like, is that my identity? This is just an example. I'm not saying this is about you.
Yeah.
But, you know, is that really my identity, or is it some part of my identity, part of someone else's identity? And I got to let some of that shit go and take some risks here.
Totally.
And that's generally when you make your best stuff.
And it's funny you say let stuff go, because I think even literally, and let stuff go emotionally and symbolically, but even practically letting stuff go as in people, like letting go of the safety net of other co-writers in the room. I feel like allowed for there to be more space for me to hear my own voice, letting go of other voices, letting go of other cooks in the kitchen.
New label situation right now.
Yeah, new
start
label
in a lot of
situation.
ways.
Yeah, totally. Ironically, I think it's like when you are younger, you feel like you're looking for other people to point out the way a little bit more, and that voice inside you're listening to, but you don't totally trust. And I think as I've gotten older and older, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to myself. I'm comfortable, doing the writing by myself on this album. I'm comfortable being like, it's on me today. And whether it fails or succeeds, I can trust myself to do it.
Because the first time we met, we spoke about your writing, and I think the first compliment I ever gave you was through the lens of someone else who said, she's a real writer. That's the first thing I think I ever said to you, was someone told me you're a real writer.
Yeah.
Not just a great performer and a superstar and, charismatron, all the things people are looking for that moves the needle, but if she didn't want any of that attention, she's a writer. Like, she'll write for the rest of her life at a high level. So, and I think to your point, and please, we don't do interviews, dude. We chat.
We just chat. Yeah.
So
totally.
This is just how I felt at times, not all the way through. Great moments, and I heard your personality, and I heard your writing coming through in a lot of big songs and big moments and albums. But it's interesting you point that out. I think that's a great observation, because there were definitely times I felt like I feel like on this album, it's you.
Well, I think you nailed it. Where it's like, I think my writing and my voice as a writer peaked out in moments of albums, and that potential kind of shone through. But I think this is the first time where it's not just a moment, it's like the whole album, and it's like 100% me. And I think what happens when you go in and you collaborate with people, I think like your voice as a writer does kind of get diluted a little bit.
Point. It's the beauty of collaboration.
Yeah, totally.
Compromise, yeah.
Totally. But that's why I think I knew for this album, I was like, this really needs to be like me waking up in the morning and writing down lyrics and like searching for things and searching for titles and searching for concepts, and me like trying the cringy idea and trying the cringy title to get to the tasty words that I like. Like, this really needs to be, all me, because then it's gonna sound like my personality.
Totally.
It's not gonna sound like me plus
That's what I
this
heard.
other person's personality.
The first time I pressed play on Chanel number 5 and it was sent to me way too early. Shout to your crew for doing that. And,
I'm okay with things getting sent to you too early. I
they
trust
would-
your.
I know, and they would have known that. They wouldn't have ever betrayed your trust like that. But they were
Yeah.
like, well, "You got to hear this." And they played me a few. They had sent me a few songs. I love it. Was on there. Yeah, smasher, fucking great, weird pop song, amazing. I love it. Cardi, huge, great. They played me a couple of songs. One of the songs we'll get to a little bit later on in this conversation. And I pressed play on Chanel number 5, which I was listening to when you walked in.
My favorite song I've ever written. Actually, one of the two. There's another song on. I feel like that song and June Gloom are like what the inside of my soul sounds like. Like I feel like that is like peak me as a writer. It's like
I think Boat's up there too. But I
yeah,
think
Boat's up there too.
But June
I think
Gloom is
you know.
amazing.
I think you know me because you've known me for such a long time now that you can be like, oh, this is really her. You know,
Chanel number 5. When you I always talk about like when you're on a wave and when you drop in, you're never sure if you're going to catch it and ride it to shore. You just catch that song, you ride it flawlessly, and it's like this spritz, and the whole thing is just so playful and yet emotional. I'm like, that's Cece. Like that's who you are. You have this
Yeah.
playfulness to your character, but also you can't help but write through the emotional lens.
yeah, it's true because I'm a really emotional person, but I think I also learned technique-wise what I love, what I think constitutes great writing, whether it's in a novel or, you know, I was just talking about this series with my mom that I rewatch as my comfort show, like Girls on HBO, which I feel like is just like great writing where it's like, it's show, don't tell writing.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
specific. And I think it took me a little bit to learn as a writer that if you're a really emotional person, instead of just saying this devastated me, which, you know, so Taylor is a master at this and all the great writers are masters of this. You don't say like, I was jealous. You say like, you know, I want to wear her hair on my head or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you don't say the emotion,
Yeah.
you paint it. And
Yeah, you make an experience.
yeah, exactly. And I think that that's something that I listened to so much hip hop and rap while I was writing this album. And I always have, but I think specifically from the writing perspective of just like less kind of storytelling, like beginning of the story, middle of the story, and then this is the conclusion, and more like picture, wrist, spritz, origami, shibari, omakase, blah, 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 like all these different kind of fast cut, like a movie, which I feel like rap does so well. It's like, you know, you're in the car, then you're in the club, then you're here, then you're, you know, this jacket and this thing, and you can, it's really just like flashes of images.
No, you're right.
As opposed to, I think, the way that I started songwriting, which was more, I think, kind of Nashville storytelling, like songs like First Man or Never Be the Same, which were a little bit more kind of like, it's a different kind of movie and different kind of writing.
Different kind of movie.
So yeah, I think Chanel number 5 was me really experiment. I was listening to, you know, a lot of Drake at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, experimenting with just like writing like a song with pop melodies, but with kind of rap structure.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the character that is C XOXO and this idea of being able to, which is very common in the arts, to embellish your identity one project at a time and to find new ways to explore things. It doesn't always have to be how I wrote this when I was in my pajamas when I woke up on my first cup of coffee and I feel like shit and I'm gonna write a song. No, you should write a song when you're at your most fabulous, interesting, innovative self as well, and look for ways to present that. But it's just fascinating to me when I listen to this album start to finish that I'm hearing the real you, and yet I'm looking at the character on the cover and it feels like you're sort of like in this beautiful balance between who you truly are, but somehow this character has helped you get there.
I think Chanel number 5 was actually the first song where I think that C XOXO character kind of happened, which is, you're right, it's me kind of zooming into this moment where I do feel my most powerful. And
Free.
it is this, it's actually this illusion of control, you know, because I think like that's just a moment where I do feel this illusion of, having my shit completely together.
I got it.
You know, and
him, her, them, all of it.
Totally.
I can get
it's
it all.
Mine. It's mine. Look how I have my fucking shit together.
Yeah.
And, the rest of the time I feel like the girl in like 20-somethings, where it's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. But I think that character of C XOXO, like, I think I've learned as I'm growing up that it's important to practice being that character because it makes your life better, and practice having that confidence, and practice, like when you're not feeling great, dressing like you do, and, and decorating yourself to decorate your
guess
life.
What? We're born with a clear canvas, right? So there's some definite nature going on, and then there's some nurture going on. And over the course of the nurture element of it, our identity shifts and becomes something that's really none of our control. We have no control over what we absorb and don't absorb, and how it sticks in our brain and sticks in our body, and how we end up absorbing it. I love the idea of reinvention, and I love the idea of letting go of old things and replacing them with invented things.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like my hair was a really kind of interesting metaphor for that, because there is something interesting about like because I've had dark long hair all my life, and when you change something about your physicality and it's extreme, it is kind of this like physical representation of like impermanence. It's like, oh, I'm not really one
I'm a
self.
work in progress. Yeah, for sure.
Totally. Like
for sure.
I'm kind of like
I can change anything about myself.
Yeah, you can change
really.
it. Yeah, totally.
How did you feel when you did it? When you first looked at yourself in the mirror and you saw that, and your hair color had changed, and you realized that? Did it feel like it had? Did it feel like a fundamental element in terms of your artistic identity had changed as well? Like, shit, this is going to change my music. This is going to feel different.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a fundamental part of just my self, like as my personality had changed. Therefore, my artistic self.
Were you ready for a change? And I mean this with a pure heart. Like, was there a part of you that was ready to let the old you go? Were you tired a little bit of yourself and the world you'd built around yourself and the kind of artist you were? And did you feel like, man, I'm really ready for change? Like, I don't want to be that person with that kind of haircut doing that kind of thing again.
Yeah, I think that I kind of follow my instincts every time.
You've already achieved a lot around this album, Moving Quick. I don't know how you're doing it. I mean, you're everywhere.
There's a lot. I think, honestly, because I'm so like proud of it and I care about it so much, it's like the most nonstop I've like ever been. And you know me, I'm like sensitive. I'm like,
how are you taking care of yourself right now?
I do like a 5-minute meditation in the car.
I can't do meditation. I wish I could. I'm dying to do it. How do you do 5 minutes in the car? What are you like, literally like at the drive-through, get an In-N-Out burger, get a quick meditation?
It's exactly. It's like just shouldn't even count as a meditation. I think it's like this subconscious thing where because I'm in an interview and I feel like I have to be on, my body is almost like rebel.
Bit of fight or flight.
Yeah, my body is like rebel and like say you need a second because like that's the thing you can't do. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so
is your body disappointed now that I gave you all the time in the world and didn't go, what the fuck do you mean you want to take a second? This is an interview.
No, but that ironically is like what makes me feel better is that like then my body's like, no, you can take a second.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
We've been doing this a long time, you and I.
We've been doing this so long.
You're still a very young artist and you have a lot of life to live, but I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. I'm always having little panic attacks in my conversations.
Little panic attacks are adorable.
Little tiny little ones.
Little tiny cute ones.
Little cute little adorable
No, but can I say something?
Panic attacks.
Well, to me it's like, first of all, it just means we're alive and we're sensitive to.
It's just who we are. We can't. I mean, you're never going to cure it. Why would you cure it? It's how we're wired. All you can do.
And I love that about you.
And you. And all of the people that I meet who I really appreciate the fact that I don't want to fix something anymore.
Same. I feel the same about myself.
I just want to learn to live with it and appreciate it and let it do its thing and actually acknowledge it.
And be with people who are like, love you.
Yeah.
Like,
it is what it is.
I think it's letting go of baggage and letting go of things that I carried in my early 20s and in my late teenage years of just, like self-doubt and a lot of like, like mental health stuff and anxiety. And I think that allowed me to make more space for, I want to have more fun and I want to be more free and be more authentic and I want to be more curious. And I really think that inspires all of my musical things is whatever I'm going through in my personal life. So I really think it, because I actually think that question, I was like, dang, why did I, want to go in this direction? I really think it is just that natural instinct of
I don't need this anymore.
Of just curiosity. And I also think my first love, I really do love singing, but people ask me all the time, like, if it's performing or singing or what's my favorite part of this whole thing. And writing is, to me, my greatest love.
You're
and
a writer, dude. You're like one of the best making music right now.
Thank you.
I think if you, like I said, if you didn't want to go out there and deal with all of the performative elements of this, from this to genuine performance, right through to any of the other things.
I like this. It's just vulnerable. It's just vulnerable.
Yeah, it is. It's very vulnerable.
It's just fucking
It is.
vulnerable. And I also think, like, since I was little, I've just like, I used to cry when people sang happy birthday to me. So just I would get like overstimulated.
Yeah, you're in the wrong job.
I know. I just
Every
get
day is people are singing happy birthday to you. They're just
Literally.
not singing happy birthday to you.
Everybody's singing happy birthday to me all the time. But yeah, but I think also, like, for this album, I think I feel like it was just like going to school for music. Like, especially with Pablo and with Jasper, like they were just, I was like, first of all, I was going on Apple Music's like classic albums and listening to music that I had never heard before. I'm an immigrant child. I didn't grow up listening to a lot of like.
What did you discover? Like, what kind of things were you listening to?
Like Illmatic.
Yeah.
Like, never listened to a lot of like classic rap albums. I never listened to.
Finally picked the classic.
I know. I never listened to like Pink Floyd. I never like. I've watched like the whole Beatles documentary.
You watched all of it?
Yeah.
Who has the time?
I do during writing time.
I'm just kidding. It's like 15 hours long. It is amazing, though.
Well, I thank God that I was not a teenager during that time, because I would have been obsessed.
You would have been
Paul.
obsessive?
I would have been like showing up with the poster.
Who were you obsessed with when you were a teenager?
I would have been flashing them.
Who was it? Chasing the cars and shit? Chasing down the cars and shit? Like
100%.
risking life and death just to see Ringo? Who were you obsessed with as a kid?
Harry Styles.
Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was it meeting
I would have
your
risked
hero?
it all for him.
Yeah. And then you meet him, and then what's that like?
I like probably wrote my first songs about Harry Styles.
Amazing. Time is relative. We talk about this all the time about how, like, because the distance between being a fan and following your dreams and becoming an artist now can be very short. You can come face to face with someone who inspired you to be an artist, who really was your first kind of celebrity crush.
That's my life every day.
3 years after it was happening.
Yeah.
You're literally like, damn, that was 18 months ago.
I know. Well, that was my life, because, I also like loved Taylor. I was like the fucking biggest Taylor fan. And then she, became my friend a few years after.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
how do you keep it together in those moments, right? Because I'd imagine if there's ever going to be a feeling of imposter syndrome, it's when you meet the people that you were obsessing over very recently in a situation where they're looking to you from a peer level. So that's hard to absorb.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like I did have imposter syndrome for a very long time, and I do sometimes. But I think, like, the more that you get to know people and get to know them on a human level, you're like, oh, they have the same shit.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say, I think it also, surrounding yourself with people that are at that level, like Taylor or Drake, or, it's like, it really just elevates you, even on a subconscious level, like just, watching them do what they do or talk about things. You just kind of, there's something about their energy and their confidence and their wisdom from just like doing it so long that I think just kind of like pulls your game up. And also I think when you make friends with people like that, you're like, oh, they're like kind of watching my shit, so I better like fucking.
That's exactly what it is. It's a perfect balance between them wanting you to know that you're all the same, and also, are you going to meet us over here?
Yeah, totally. But I think that's why peers are so important. That was really important for me for this album too, is like really connecting with people and the artist community, and just like, I feel like it's an industry where, I mean, I feel like you have a lot of friends, but it's easy to like, for it to be.
It's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. I have a few friends.
You got a few friends.
Doing all right. You got a solid bag.
Right? You got a little.
Yeah. I got some friends. You got some really great friends showing up on this record.
Yeah, my friends came through for me, for
dude,
sure.
Did they? I mean, by the way, I love that story. That story, everyone was obsessed with that DM Playboy Cardi story. You know why? Because people don't just DM Playboy Cardi. When you told me that, yeah, I know you do, but it obviously works for you. Everyone else is like, why do I get to DM Playboy Cardi? It's like, because you're not Cece.
Thank you.
Lil Nas X.
I
collaborated
didn't
du
DM him.
jour.
I texted him.
You just texted him?
But I texted him and I was like, I have this song called He Knows, and I'm just imagining us doing a music video where we're both fighting over the same guy. I think it would be iconic.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh my God, let me hear it. I sent it to him, and I think he was busy because he didn't respond. And then
how do you take that when he doesn't respond? do you go into a dark place of like, man, he hates it, or just like, I'll give him space?
No, I just plot and scheme, and
Just
I'm
move
like,
on, right?
no, not at all. I usually try 2 or 3 more times before
Right.
I'm like, this is gonna sacrifice the friendship. I gotta.
This can sacrifice the friendship. It's a
Yeah.
fine line.
Yeah, it is a fine line, but I think I text people after, and then I'm like, hey,
Get the song?
yeah, you gotta be persistent because people are busy,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and sometimes they don't know what's good for them.
Sometimes they don't. And
I'm like, I know what's good for you. Do this song, do the roar, do it.
do it for me, yes, but primarily do it for you.
But do it for you
Do
also.
it for you. And he did, and he crushed it. And it's one of my favorites. And I understand why there's going to be a focus on that. It's still, I mean, I feel like a crazy person. I keep banging on about Chanel. I know. I just feel like a crazy person. I'm like, where's the video? Where's the vibe? Where's the thing on Chanel? And everyone's like, no, but there's so many hits on this album, and you are spoiled with songs you could choose to represent this.
But
record.
let's actually talk about it.
Okay.
Because I do really feel like every song, there's like no fillers.
There's no filler on this record.
fucking album.
You could
It's so
literally
good.
close your eyes and pick one.
I worked so hard on this
So do you
fucking
wanna-
album.
so do you wanna know
I drove
why-
myself crazy on this album.
So do you want? So this is your crazy coming out party. So do you want to know why I get obsessed about Chanel? Is because I think, and I could be wrong, I feel like it's the purest representation of this album. When I hear it, it's the one that just appeared and showed itself different to any of the others.
Let me just like take your sentence and just, give it a little step stool. Because this is how I explain Chanel number 5. It is the thesis statement for the album.
Boom.
It is the centerpiece of the table
Yeah.
at the dinner party.
Yeah.
That is the album.
Yeah. I feel like I love it's almost an intro. I'm sorry, I just do. I feel like it.
But it is.
Yeah.
But it is. And that's why it came first, because it is the intro. Because Chanel number 5, I think that people wouldn't have if I put Chanel number 5 first, it's almost like too good for people to understand right away. Honestly, like I think people would be like, I don't get this coming from Camila, not yet anyway. And I just would be like, I would just be frustrated if people didn't understand it. And I think I Love It was like just digestible, but weird enough for people to understand at first. But I think Chanel number 5 is the first song where, especially from a songwriter perspective, I was like, oh, this is literally the voice of C XOXO. It's like, it's exactly it. It's playful. She's in control. She's like, putting on her lip gloss. She's like toying with this guy. She's like magical. She's sensitive.
I was banging on about it before the show today, wasn't I? But before we went to air, I came and I had 10 minutes before we were on air, and I knew you were coming in, and I said, there's like 7 of us in the room. I was like, you got to hear this shit. You guys don't even know you got to hear this shit. And I played Chanel again.
Let's talk about other ones too.
We will. Don't worry about it. I'm not obsessed. I mean, I'm mildly obsessed. But to lead into the other ones.
Be obsessed.
But what I said about it was, and then we can move on, I was like, this is the perfect example today, as it rests today, of who, to me, Camila actually is, which is just like outsider on the inside.
That's exactly. Thank you, because you understand me, Zane Lowe.
I try. I mean, you're hard, but I do my best. Once every year or two, I get a shot at it.
No,
I'm having a good go.
Because
trying to figure this out.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. It's like,
Mum's happy, by the way. She's having a great time over there. Your mum, I think your mum likes me. There you go.
wow,
she trusts
she's
me.
bopping around over there. Because sometimes I'm like, and I'm going to ask you this like as a friend. I don't know what the discomfort I feel when people are like, oh, like she's like a pop girl that's like, do you even feel like I'm like a pop girl?
No.
Thank you.
I think you're a modern pop girl. I think you. I have a different take on pop, right? There's pop where it's like I just want to be pop, and that's fine. That exists.
No,
and we
of course
have
it's
great
fine,
pop stars
and
who
I
do
love that.
Then
for
I
sure.
have the pop which I'm more drawn to, which is the pop that absorbs like a fucking tasteful magpie all these amazing little elements and puts it together and makes something new. And that's why pop music is this everlasting, nonstop, infinite, innovative experience because it's so brazenly
like SZA is pop.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm a bit of folk, I'm a bit of this, I'm a little bit of that, I'm a bit of this, and I make it all me. And I think that's what you do.
That's what I want people to see me as. So that's why it means a lot to me when you say you're an outsider on the inside.
To me, it's the best place to be.
And that's what I feel like I have learned through my career, that I realize when, with songs like Havana, Never Be the Same, I feel like those are the songs that felt like really right for me, because I was like, this is pop, but it's like done in like kind of like a weird, like rubbing against way, and this makes me feel like I'm an outsider on the end. And the truth is like I feel like it's always risky with those songs because it's either like they really work or really don't work.
Yeah, but really don't work. What does really work and what's really don't work? Here's the thing about music, right?
I mean, that I don't care. Like, to
the
me,
really don't work eventually. They just take their time. They find an audience. Someone picks it up and goes, wow, shit, this really works for me.
well, I think for some people, like on the outside, really work means instant, domination, like virality.
So are you done with that a bit now? Are you?
Yeah, I don't, because I feel like I've even had the really works where I feel like it wasn't creatively fulfilling for me. Well, I mean, I honestly didn't mind that because I was like, this is just such a banger.
Yeah.
But there has been songs where I feel like, for example, they really worked and I tried it, but it didn't feel like experimental enough or weird enough for me, and that doesn't feel creatively fulfilling for me. Like I would rather play and have it feel like I did something different than do something that you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Do you think that this friendship you've developed that's turned into a creative relationship with Drake is surprising to people?
That's a great question. I don't know. Is it?
Not when you hear the music, but I think when people because
I can see
Drake
that.
doesn't show up for a lot of people. Like I mean,
you said Drake doesn't?
No,
or he does.
People
Okay.
think that he does, but he actually doesn't. He dabbles in other people's art, and so he'll be like, "I might remix this, jump on that, I like it," and he's very helpful in terms of giving songs a lot more sort of push, especially with the OVO Sound Radio days when he would be like, "That's a smash. Let me see if I can make that even bigger." Right?
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely like an authentic music lover. Like he puts
no doubt about that.
puts people on.
There's no doubt about that. But this is different. He shows up on 2 songs back to back, and one of them is just his.
I know.
I don't think there is another album where Drake, a solo Drake song, just exists on someone else's album.
Well, he initially, okay, 2 things. I feel like he, based on his catalog, I mean, tell me if you agree, but I feel like, at least from what I know of myself, I feel like we're musically aligned in a lot of ways. I think we have a lot of the same taste, and lyrically as well. And I actually slid into his DMs too, and I was like, I've been listening to you so much for this album, like a lot of like the wordplay and like my aspiration for bars.
Did you know him already when you did that? Was it kind of did it feel cold, that DM, or did it feel like, oh no, he'll...
No, I'd met him once before at a party, like during Havana times.
Right.
And then I think I like.
Plus, he's got to follow you to slide in. I mean, everyone does, but the other thing you got to know.
No, he did. He followed me because I think I like posted a picture like with like song lyrics. And I was like,
right. So you followed it.
I know. Well, let me explain that. So I DM'd him and then I played him my album and he fucked with it. And then I think it was like a week.
Did he fuck with Chanel?
Yes, he fucked with Chanel. He fucked with Chanel. He fucked with June Gloom, and he fucked with 20-somethings.
Yeah.
And he sent the idea for Hot Uptown, and I wrote my parts. I sent it back to him, and we kind of chopped it so it felt kind of like a duet. And then when he reworked on his parts again, he gave me an outro, which was the ugly part. But I was like, you don't want to...
So that's a twofer. It doesn't matter which way you spin it. You can say it was an outro for Hot Uptown.
Yeah, because...
That's a twofer.
It's a twofer because it was like, he didn't really need to give me an outro, right? But I was like, you don't want to... For me, it's like, I don't want to hear a song like Hot Uptown and then have it like go into like this like 1 minute, like, a thing where he's like talking his shit. So we decided to just like make it another song.
We just decided to like basically put a whole other Drake song on my record because you know what?
I was like, is this cool?
That's awesome. I love it.
Because the whole thing, there was this premise of the album that we started with where basically, because it was kind of this very collaborative vibe, there's Pink XOXO, where Pink Panthers kind of wrote her letter to people. Koshi writes his letter, and then Drake writes his letter. But we didn't want to call it Drake XOXO because it's like...
That would be problematic, potentially, as well.
So we decided to call it...
Ugly.
And he goes the fuck off.
Yeah, he starts talking about pulling out credit card receipts and all kind of gnarly shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like pithy Drake, man. Petulant Drake. Chip on shoulder Drake, man.
Yep.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And Hot Uptown's a serious fucking jam.
I know, right? I love it.
Can I just play a little bit of that?
Yeah, play it. Play
Can I
it. Play
play a
it.
little
Play
bit of
it.
that? All right, hang on.
Yeah. Nike me shoemaker.
All right.
Okay, so he like had sent me the song.
Yeah.
And then I think I remember like I literally booked the studio that same day.
Yeah.
And sent him back like my verse, like my part literally
Straight away.
3 hours later.
You show off. You're such a show off. That is a flex.
That's a huge flex, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think you're worthy of a love like mine.
I love that shit. It's such a flex. It's just like, oh, I know that you sent this over to me. Like, I'll get back to. Oh, she got back to me.
I was like, honey, let me flex my pen for a second.
That's amazing. So now you. Hang on, I'll give this a bit more. And it's fast too. It's up tempo. It's got serious tempo.
He is so great at, I feel like, up tempo that feels effortless.
It's pretty good at everything.
For real.
He's one of those human beings, I think, when you know him, and I don't know him, but I've met him a few times and enough to know that he's got a good heart, you know, like, I mean.
You can just, you know what?
Yeah.
It's like, what movie is it from? Is it Scarface where it's like, it's in the eyes, Chico?
It's just like, he's got
Isn't
a good
it?
heart. Yeah, no, you're
No,
right.
I'm
What's
sorry.
that movie, Scarface?
I know that sounds like a joke, but
Yeah.
but it is in the eyes. I feel like you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
tell when a person is kind.
Do you know my other favorite scene in Scarface? Where are you from? Baltimore? Baltimore? Where is Baltimore? That line when they're dancing on the dance floor?
Can't super remember that. I'm not gonna lie.
That's an iconic scene, whatever.
There's really good acting. I feel like that could be a good.
What are you watching right now apart from Girls?
I just finished Breaking Bad. I'd never seen it.
Isn't it amazing?
It's really.
Isn't it great to
fucking
have
incredible.
a show that doesn't let you down at the end? After that amount of time, the season closer was just so
The
incredible.
season closer was really good, but it was I needed a light watch after that because
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm emotionally.
Do you know what's really good?
Taxed.
Hacks is really good.
I just started that.
Hacks is good. Stick with it.
Okay, I'll stick with it.
It's really cute and it's quite deep. And everyone made out like it was going to be Arrested Development. It is not wall-to-wall humor like Arrested Development, but it's cute. It's good.
And can I just say one more thing?
Please.
I feel like I'm Chanel number 5 girl, and then I feel like my little mini panic attack is like my 20. It's like I'm 20 somethings.
But you're not still hung up on that, right?
No. Yes.
No, don't be. No, don't be. Because do you know how many, okay, you can come out and be Chanel number 5 all day. And a lot of people are going to get great energy out of that and appreciate the fact that you wrote that and performed that and it's you and it's a banger. But you're actually, weirdly, whether you mean to or not, you probably shouldn't mean to, just as it should be an instinctive thing, helping more people by being honest about it. You
know,
flipping me
that's
off
true.
intentionally, by the way? You know, you were like that.
Oh shit! Sorry.
I was just like, is that CC sign? Is that C XOXO coming through?
No.
You're like, sorry, what were you saying about that? You're helping more people by being honest
You're right.
than not.
And can I ask you another thing?
We can talk all day.
What's your other favorite song?
I love Day County Dreaming.
Oh shit, that's
Because
a fucking banger.
That's fucking just goes
Yeah.
and doesn't stop. And I love how the second half of it, or I don't know what the percentage of it is, but the latter part of it is so emotive. That's one of the things I love about this album is how it has super interesting contrasts between going up and coming home. And you know what I mean? After the club. And so it's like in that whole one song, I feel like, you know, that the piano motif at the end and the way you ride that, even though it seems it's the same song, I just love it.
Yeah, I feel like we really tried to intentionally make it an album of contrast. I feel like there's so many parallels where sonically it's like, you know, if it was a piano, then there's like, you know, like a really like hard rap flow over it. And if there's like a really hard beat, then I'm like doing this super like gentle falsetto. Like there's constantly these kind of rubs. Because I feel like this is an album also where emotionally I'm exploring a lot of rubs. You know what I mean? Like in songs like 20 somethings where it's like, dang, like I'm with you, but like I feel shitty. Like, you know what I mean? Like just kind of complex, like rubbing against each other.
What was the
feelings.
hardest part of yourself to acknowledge on this record, to write about on this record?
Any songs where I felt really, really vulnerable, like 20 somethings or June Gloom, you know, I had to like kick Pablo and Jasper out of the room to like write those songs because, you know, I'm like really talking my shit on those.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can't.
Is that real?
Because the way that I write is I like kind of freestyle. I feel like my body can't like sometimes totally relax and go there and talk about things completely. It's really like a therapy session.
But when you subconsciously open a song talking about, it says June gloom, Tool fog. Okay, you've immediately laid out the like the outline of the painting on the canvas. First thing you say is the song title, so you know where you're going subconsciously. It's obviously a situation, whether it's entirely specific, it's inspired by a real situation. Because
Well, that situation happened the night before the song.
Cold Beach, You Walk,
Yeah.
the whole Meet Me in Montauk situation, like wow.
Yeah. But like the chorus of that line, I could not have written with other people in the room. You know what I mean? I would just like be too self-conscious.
Yeah, it's a super honest record. I don't need to go through the lyrics line by line on that, but people should, when they get a chance and they hear the album, listen to that one with an open mind and understand the courage it takes to write that song down. Because also, it's not just about. It's one thing to write through the perspective of pain. It's the other thing to also take some accountability and be self-aware enough to put yourself in the situation as well.
100%.
That's a big growth moment for any writer.
Totally. And I feel like I really like shows that, speaking of girls or speaking of, like that show, like the last show I loved that I watched, I love Baby Reindeer.
I can't watch it. Too anxiety inducing for me. The idea of a stalker and it's just, okay.
No, I feel you. It's a lot. But I love like exploring the gray area too. The gray areas of like morality and like I'm like, I'm doing the wrong thing and you
but
know
I
what
know
I mean?
I'm doing the wrong thing and I'm aware of it.
Exactly. And I know that I'm kind of like indulging in something bad in this moment. Or I don't know, I think as a writer it's important to remove your ego, because you're just exploring humanity. You're exploring those parts in all of us. I feel like that's what makes interesting writing. Like if you want to be just like the uncomplicated like hero all the time, then it's not really very interesting.
Okay, CC, we've got to a point now where we're in the last phase of this conversation this time around, and I feel like this is the roads have led us here, and I'm not going to shy away from the question. I think you're going to be okay with it. So if you're writing from that perspective and you're willing to acknowledge that life is not black and white, and that there are gray areas, and every human being is fully capable of consciously or subconsciously of finding themselves in areas where, whether you acknowledge it or not, you're fucking up, or you're doing wrong, or you might be being done wrong, but you're also doing wrong, or that sort of shit. And you've been through a lot of stuff in your life where, for all the success and all the triumph, you've had challenges. What is your general feeling toward judgment now? How do you process judgment? Do you care? Do you have a thicker skin? Are you able to move forward in your life and judge yourself more than others will judge you?
What was the last part of the question?
Do you feel more comfortable moving through life with self-awareness and self-judgment, and less concerned about how the world sees you now you're 27 and you're moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's a process. I don't feel like I was just talking about this yesterday with my friends. Like I think, in another 10 years, I'll probably be like, wow, when I was 27, I used to let shit get to me.
Yeah.
Way more than I let shit get to me now.
Yeah. By the way, you will.
Huh?
You will. At
I
37.
will say that.
Yeah, and you will say it at 47 again, and you will keep saying it.
Exactly. I definitely still struggle. If I see criticism online, it'll still get to me and I have to process it, whether it's with friends or with my mom or by myself. But I feel like kind of growing up in the public eye and dealing with those things has also led me to other great tools, like whether it's like, Buddhist philosophy, or not to sound like
No. I think people should be entitled to explore all kinds of mantras. But
I just read. I was reading in this book yesterday. There's like it's this book that talks about like it's like holding your seat through the 8 worldly winds, and the 8 worldly winds are like pleasure and pain, praise and criticism. I don't know, like all these kind of opposites, and these winds kind of constantly blow. And I was reading through the praise and criticism.
Hold your seat through them?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Like hold your seat, because we kind of lose our...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm getting better at, depersonalizing criticism. And I think before I would just take it too personally. And now I'm kind of like, okay, who is saying this to me? Like if it's not somebody who personally knows me and who I personally know, then I don't have to take it to heart so much. I also heard from somebody, which I love this advice. I think it was Michael Gervais, who said, you should care about what other people think, but you shouldn't worry about what other people think.
That's a great distinction.
And I think that's really helped me, because I think it's like, I'm never going to get to a point where I don't care about what other people think, because that would, that's like sociopathic behavior. Like if I feel like I'm, hurting somebody's feelings or offending people, like, of course that hurts me and I care about that. But I think it's like the worry where I start to like beat the shit out of myself for it or lose sleep.
One you can actually translate and
into action
and work on, which is to care. The worry gets you nowhere.
Exactly. And one I think has made me a more empathetic person, a more thoughtful person, and a person that is like a better listener. But I think for sure criticism, I'm like a person that, if I'm being totally honest, I have friends who, with criticism, they're like, fuck you, like, you don't fucking know me. And I think because I was so young with criticism, I shrink. And I'm like, are they right? And I've had to work on being like, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so you've had to give your nurturing voice more power and allow your critical voice to act when it needs to act and not in default.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
same, by the way.
You too?
Yeah.
Are you like that too?
Oh, my critical voice is always ready. My critical voice is just jacked.
Is ready to fucking beat the shit out of you.
It's just doing constant pull-ups and press-ups. It's like fucking Lenny Kravitz. It's just my critical voice is doing pull-ups on the side of the road just cause. Like it's ready to go, like at all times.
Which is ironically why I needed C XOXO.
Yeah, because that's your nurturing voice. That's like, fuck it.
Honey, life is short. Go put on a fucking cute outfit and enjoy your life, bitch.
I only call foul on one observation on this record. No one's pretty when they cry. Everyone cries ugly. Come on, man. Maybe with the exception of like Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, they were pretty when they cried. And I imagine probably Beyonce's pretty when she cries.
It depends on what kind of cry.
I'm an ugly crier.
If I'm really like bawling.
Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror when I'm crying and I'm like, God, and I start laughing because I'm like, God damn, that's not a good look. I'm not a good looking crier.
When I'm really crying, I'm like, it's a body thing. Like I'm like, and that's not pretty. But if it's like a movie cry or something, then just
like a single tear, quiver of a lip.
Like exactly. Like my lips get like extra red.
But who has time to cry like that?
Huh?
Who has time to cry like that? Do you really in a situation where you're feeling that kind of emotion, Cece, and then you're just like, let me just do a little amuse-bouche cry before I actually sit down and give them the main course. Let me just give you a little.
A performative cry for yourself in a selfie camera is very C XOXO.
Performative crying, it's a whole new thing. I might try it when I get home tonight. I might just see if I can stare in the mirror and performative cry.
Yeah, exactly. Or just like bite your lips or something.
That's sexy crying. It's not the same. You can't be like...
Yeah, that's what I mean. No, bite your lip to make your lips red.
What, just like bite your lip and make it bleed or something? This is getting into like some...
You know what? We'll do a little tutorial. You'll see it.
That's very C XOXO. I like Boat too.
I love Boat. That's a very me song. That was like one of the fastest songs to write too.
Yeah, because I feel like that's your comfort zone pushed into uncomfortable territory.
Don't fucking read me like that, Zane Lowe. Jesus Lord. Jesus.
I can do that, but should I do it there or should I do it over here?
My God.
Yeah, man.
This is exactly true. That is that's comfort. The easiest songs for me to write are emo mid-tempos.
The queen of it, ladies and gentlemen, the queen of emo mid-tempos with 808s and for the dance floor.
For real.
I'm really happy for you. I'm grateful. I'm happy for all of us. I mean, I don't know if there was any alternate future for you a few years back. I wouldn't have been surprised, though, if you decided to write a book or go into acting or direct something or do something else, because I know you're a very curious human and you're a student of life. I know you like to learn. So I wouldn't have been surprised if you thought, you know what, and your mum gave me permission to swear, fuck this music game. It's kind of bullshit. I'll come back to it when I've got a little more layers of skin and I've learned a little bit more. And I think that's probably what you have done.
I think that is, that's kind of what I did, yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, I think unless
in little ways.
Yeah, and I think unless you make those changes, right, it just stays being bullshit. And you just kind of have to keep showing up for a shit job.
Totally. And I think especially when you start out young, it's so easy to like stay the same age that you became famous. So you know what I mean? I really had to like dig out uncomfortable situations like, the movie or new friend groups or whatever so I can keep growing because I have to find my own version of college.
Are you good at saying goodbye
jobs.
though?
Am I good at saying goodbye to like different experiences?
People you don't want in your life anymore. We started the conversation. You said you let go of a lot of things, and
it takes me a second. It takes me a second because I feel like I really always want to see the best in people, and I always give things and everything the benefit of the doubt and like multiple chances. But I think I'm realizing the gift of self-compassion, and I think, and I'm not trying to sound like, fucking Mother Teresa or whatever, but
No disclaimers, just straight up.
yeah, but straight up, I think that I gave a lot of like, I think like a lot of the times prioritized and gave kindness to sometimes like other people like before me, and now I'm like, well, if this person is making me feel bad, making me feel anxious or whatever, I got to take care of me first. And I love this quote that's like, I think it's like a Buddhist quote or I think it's this quote by this Buddhist teacher, Sharon Salzberg, who's like, you, as much as anybody else in the universe, are worthy of love and compassion. And I think like a lot of the times, like I practice giving that to other people, and it's like, no, but include yourself in that equation. And
Yeah.
I try to be more mindful of how things feel in my body. If things are making me feel bad or small or like not good situations or people, if they're not making me feel joy, if they're not making me feel safe.
Have enough self-awareness to recognize the pain
Yeah.
in the moment.
Exactly.
Make the change in the moment.
In the moment.
Because otherwise you can be back here 4 years later and you've been living with that pain.
100%. 100%. And being, of course, like super kind to everybody, but it's like, include yourself in that equation. Like if you're not feeling safe, if this person is, or this situation is not making you feel good, have enough self-compassion to be like, even when it comes to, for example, like, even like when it comes to guys and stuff like that, like just being like, if this person, texting this person or whatever is not making you feel good, listen to those cues in your body and have enough self-compassion to be like, I'm going to take care of myself like I would take care of my sister.
Yeah, you take care of each other. And I'm always really encouraged whenever I see you, especially around here, and you're with your mum. And I know you've got a great relationship with her. And I know it's really important that you get to share this experience. And there's a great, like any sort of family scenario or great friendship in life, there's a great support network there.
Yeah.
But how much fun, as we're coming to the end of this, how much fun is it to know you can look back on your life in 50 or 100 years and know that you shared a lot of this experience with your family? Because a lot of times artists go and follow their dreams and ambitions
Yes.
and they leave people behind.
Oh, hell no. That's my worst fucking fear. And, and honestly, I was talking to my mom about this a few days ago because I've been like I was telling you, like going so hard with like, just like working nonstop. And I haven't been home like for a second. And I'm always, I try to have that alarm bell in my head of like, oh, I haven't seen my dad or my sister or my dogs. Like, I don't mean my dogs like my friends, like my real dogs, and also my friends, but my dogs and my dogs.
Yeah. Dogs and dogs.
My dogs and my dogs. And I was like, I always want to be mindful of like, oh, I want us to like spend more time together or have them come over here or whatever, because I just like, that's my worst fear is like, because I've heard stories of people that are like, I don't remember that whole year. People being like, that was like my most successful year and I don't remember because I was like working so hard and I didn't share it with people. So, but I think I'm really lucky too that I feel like my team and like, my choreographers and like the people that I dance with and, they really feel like friends and it feels like a family. So it does feel like we really like share in whatever the success is. I never feel like it's like.
But you're happy.
I love my dogs.
Well, your dogs or your dogs?
Oh, my DAWGS. But in that moment when I said that sentence, I truly
Love your dogs.
missed the fuck out of my like animal dogs.
How many dogs?
I have 4, but I really have like 2.
Hang on, what's up with
Hold
the
on.
other 2? How can you have 4
These
but
are my
really
2.
2? Like, what's wrong with the other 2?
These are my 2, like the big ones.
Yeah, that's adorable. What about the other 2?
They're small and they're more like my parents' dogs. And by the way, dogs are actually.
Do you have 2 real dogs and 2 default dogs?
Yeah, 2 default
You
dogs.
can't have default dogs.
I do. I just feel more
You
connected
can't
to my big
hierarchy.
dogs.
You can't love your dogs and then have a hierarchy of which dogs you love more than the other dogs.
I have such a hierarchy. It's crazy. Like I could kind of ignore the other 2, honestly.
You know what? It's gonna make me cry.
Aha! And I just want to say one last thing. Just one last thing.
Okay, well, because I'm trying here. I can't get there. Will it help?
You know what'll help? just get out of your sad crying thing. Just say, look into the camera and say, I'm a dog. Woof, woof.
I'm not going to do that.